My name is Cameron and I want to be an engineer, software engineer. Cameron Engineer, that's me. I want a job in tech as a software engineer, like I said. And every job listing out there, they ask for one or two or both of these two things. They want some kind of experience in the field, which unfortunately I have none of, and a college degree, which I also have none of. They especially want a college degree in some kind of related field to tech. The degree they typically ask for is the computer science degree. So that's what I'm going for. I decided to use WGU to get my bachelor's degree in computer science. I made a video about why I chose to go to WGU if you're interested in that video. But this video in specifically is detailing how I completed 70% of my degree before I even started there. And this is part 4 in a series of videos about how I did it. I'm going into detail about each of the 4 S's. That's Saylor, Sophia, StraighterLine, Study.com. I'm talking about all 4 of those. And I wanted to give details and advice and tips based on everything I've learned in the process of getting all those credits to transfer in, and things I might do differently now that I've experienced and things I've learned along the way. So let's just get right to it. So here, these are the classes I transferred in. I just want to show you very briefly. So I took calculus at StraighterLine. I started January 15th, 2022. I completed my very last class here at study.com. I completed that on November 27th, 2022. So it took about 4.5 months to do all this. And I did take an entire month off in between. And I also took a vacation here at the end of November. So this could have been done quicker in 3 months. If you're looking to get through this quick, it can be done quicker. I took my time in a lot of these classes, believe it or not. So it could be done quicker, or if it might take more time if you have responsibilities that I don't have right now. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Also, really quick, I'm going to show you, as you can see, all of the classes here transferred in. There's 25. If you'd like to look, this is 25. They're all done. And if I scroll down here, this is all I have left. There's 10 more. So it all worked. All this stuff worked. Everything I did, it all got transferred in successfully. So if you have any concerns about this might not work, it does work. But I just want to put that out there for any of you who might be confused or concerned. So let's just get to it. So the topic of this video today is going to be about study.com. Now, study.com is the most talked about here on YouTube. It is, everybody tells you to go to study.com, and I actually like study.com a lot, and I'll tell you exactly everything I like about it and everything I don't like about it. But the reason, if you've seen any of my other videos, you've noticed that I tell people, do it here versus study.com. Do everything here instead of study.com. There's a reason for that. And it comes down to, for me, mostly the price. So I'm just going to flash up on the screen what I paid to do these 16 classes right here. I'll just flash that up on the screen. Okay. And now I'm going to flash up on the screen how much it cost me to do 10 at study.com. Okay. It's a very big difference. I did 16 for this price. I did 10 for this price. Now, technically, you could probably do all of these at study.com, with exceptions. I think there's 2 that you can't do at study.com. I believe there are 2 here that are not available at study.com. So you have the scripting and programming applications. At this moment, I don't think you could do it, and the web development foundations. Everything else, you could do them all at study.com. So there's a total of 24 that you can do at study.com. But let me flash up on the screen how much it would cost you, and this includes promo codes. This is how much it's going to cost you to take all 24 possible classes at study.com versus what I paid here. This is the total I paid. So, and I could have paid less. There are classes I did at study.com that I didn't have to. So these classes change, come and go all the time, the classes that are available. So unfortunately, your mileage may vary, but it is significantly cheaper if you do everything that you can do not at study.com. Do it elsewhere, and then everything left over, do at study.com. But you want to do the maximum amount here. And if you are concerned about getting the WGU education about any of these, the question comes up a lot. Should I transfer this class in or should I not? You want to get the best possible education. I encourage you to check out a video that I just made. I answered that very question. I'll put it in the description. But I do answer that very question. And the answer may surprise you. But let's just say I recommend you transfer in everything that you can. So you're going to want to transfer in every single class here that you can possibly transfer in. There's only one that I didn't do, I should say, that I could have out of the 4 S's at the time I was transferring in classes. And that was the natural science lab. I'm going to talk about that. Actually, I'll talk about that right now. So the natural science lab, I saved it for WGU. Once I got to study.com, it was the only place I could have taken it at that point, right? Because I had the membership to study.com. I didn't have any memberships anywhere else. It wasn't available. I believe it might be available now at Sophia. It is available now at StraighterLine, but I wasn't going to sign back up for StraighterLine. So the only place I could have taken it was study.com at the time I was going to take that class. And at study.com, that happened to be the one class. Normally, the classes are $70 a piece. That is the minimum you're going to pay at study.com, $70. But Natural Science Lab in particular, they wanted you to not only pay the $70 for the class. Really, you're not even paying for the class. You're paying for the proctored exam. I'll get to that later. But they wanted you to pay $70 plus also pay another 60 or $70. I think it was 70 for some membership to some lab website. So you had to pay double the price for Natural Science Lab. And Natural Science Lab, from what I understand at WGU, and looking at I've been able to see what the requirements of the performance assessment is at WGU. It's a very, very easy assignment. So plus the class, and it was really long at study.com as well. I think there was over 100 sections that you had to go through. And then there were, you had to do a proctored final exam and you had to do all the labs. So that class would have been really long versus one performance assessment at WGU. And I saved myself $150 by just saving it for WGU. So that is the one class that I could have taken. Could have transferred that in to WGU. It's the only one that I didn't. If I was going through this now, if I was just starting now, that class is available at StraighterLine. I would have taken it at StraighterLine. If you'd like to learn about StraighterLine, check out part 2 of this series. And I talk about how you can do free classes at StraighterLine. Natural Science Lab being one of them if you would like to. You can even get paid to take classes there if you're lucky, doing it at certain times of the year. So check that out if you're interested in that. But that is the one class I didn't do. Everything else I did. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second. But let's just get to study.com here. So let me just go to the plans here. Okay, so these are the plans for study.com. So you have your basic membership. You're not going to want to get that. And you're not going to want to get this premium membership because you can't get college credits with these other two and you want the college credit. That's why you're here. And for this price, this includes 2 of your exams. Really what this is saying is you can complete 2 classes for this price. Now, what I recommend you do, as always, with every one of the 4S's that you can do anyway, promo codes. You have to use your promo code, right? I'll put a promo code in the description. If I ever get my own, I'll put mine up, but I'll put somebody else's up for now. But use a promo code. You want to use one. At the time I'm recording this, the most I ever see or the highest amount I ever see is 30% off. So you want to use that. And that'll give you 3 months of this. So this is going to bring this price down from $200 down to $140. And you get 2 classes in that $140. That's going to make it $70 per class if you look at it that way. So definitely use your promo code. Okay. So that's the pricing. Let's see. All right, so let me take you to a class here. Let's go to technical communication, technical writing. This is the one I transferred in for technical communication at WGU. It has a lot of stuff here. It's a big class, right? You have all these different sections. You have multiple lessons. So the way this works here, so it doesn't actually show on here, but if you're in study.com, it'll right here at the top, it's going to have one little section here that has the amount of points you have for a quiz. In the middle, if it has assignments involved, it'll have the amount of points available for your assignments, and then it'll also have your final exam points as well. And it amounts up to 300 total points. You'll have 100 points for quizzes, 100 points for your assignments, and 100 points for your final exam. If you're in a class that doesn't have any assignments, it's going to be 200 points for your final exam and 100 points for your quizzes. Now, the quizzes are very easy. You should have no problem getting 100% on all your quizzes because it's all open book and you get 3 attempts. So basically how it works here, I'll actually take you into, this is something anybody could see, so I'll just click in here. So you have your section. And one thing I do want to say about study.com, actually, is out of all the 4S's, I had the most enjoyable time learning here at study.com out of all the 4S's because I like the material. The material is the most engaging to me. A lot of the sections all had videos. Now, the way these videos tend to work is the video is exactly the same text as what you can read. So you could decide whether you want to read or watch the video, but I like watching the video because you get that visual aid and it's just engaging. And I like that a lot. How this is all structured. I genuinely enjoyed my experience learning at study.com over the rest of the 4S's. So if you're concerned about getting a good education, maybe do everything at study.com. I don't know, if the price doesn't bother you, maybe do everything at study.com. But I think another reason why I might have liked study.com's material more than the other 4S's is because the classes I did, not this class in particular, but the rest of them, this one might be the least interesting class to me, but the rest of them were all subjects I was interested in. All of them. They all have to do with computer related things, which I'm trying to get into the field for computers, computer related field. So I was interested in every class I took. So that might have been part of the reason I liked study.com more. It's very similar to Sophia, the material, but they do have more videos here. So I like the material the most here. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, so you'll get through every one of these sections here. And then at the very end, after you read everything or watch the video, you'll take a quiz. And so your quiz, they're all like this. Usually you have 5 questions. But you'll do all 5 questions, and then it's going to give you a score. And then you're going to, if you got all 5 of them right, great, you're done. But you get 2 more attempts if you don't get all 5 right. So the way to handle this, if you don't get them right, is very simple, is just open up a new quiz in a different tab. It's going to tell you which ones you got wrong. So just open up a new quiz in another tab and just go through the quiz again, and then pick the same answers for the ones you got right, and then pick different answers for the ones you got wrong. And you could use the book while you do it, or the video, and find the answer. So you should have no problem. You get 3 tries. You should have no problem getting 100% on every single one of your quizzes. There are a lot of quizzes here. In this one, there's 148 lessons. Every single one of them has a quiz. Now, one thing that does happen, which I think is great, is you can actually test out of some of the quizzes. So, like for example, if I go through this section here and I do the quiz, then it might make the next 3 sections, it'll just say that the next 3 quizzes are optional. You don't have to do them. So I think that's great. So you don't actually have to do 148 quizzes. Not always, but you have to do most of them. But in this class, actually, one thing you could do, and this doesn't actually happen in every single class, but one thing you could do is before you start the class, is you can do like a pre-test for it. And you can actually, you'll go through, I think it's like 30 questions or so, and it'll just ask you random questions that you'll come across throughout this entire course. And if you get a question right, it'll make it so you don't even have to do any of the quizzes for that particular related question. So you could actually do it multiple times. And I think you could actually test out of up to 80% of the amount of quizzes you're going to have to do. So I recommend doing that, because you only have to answer 30 questions, and then you can potentially test out of 80%. I'm not exactly sure it's 80%, but it's a high number of tests that'll just be, of quizzes, I should say, that'll just become optional at that point. So definitely do that if it's available. It's not available for every class. I know it was for this one, and there are 148 lessons, which would be 148 quizzes. It's a lot of quizzes. And that's the reason why study.com is much slower than the other 4S's, because there's so many quizzes. After every single chapter, there's a quiz. Now, you could skip through all of it. I skipped through some in this class because I'm not that interested in this subject that much. But the other classes, even though I didn't have quizzes in some of the sections, I went through the material anyway, because like I said, I was interested in the subject. So I went through every single lesson. I think in every single other course that I did here. I believe so. But yeah, that's how your course material is structured. You're going to have your video or your section here that you can go through, and then you're going to have a quiz at the end. And then once you get through all your quizzes, you will, let me go back to here. You will then be able to take your final exam, which is going to be a proctored final exam. So it is very similar to Saylor. So it is a, I don't know the word for it. I call it robo-proctor. I don't know the word, but it is not a live human being that is going to be watching you. You're just going to be recorded. So they're going to record your screen, and they're going to record you have to have a webcam on. They record your face. They record probably tracking your eye movement, making sure you're not looking at things that you're not supposed to be looking at. And then somebody is going to review the video later on. And then once they review that video, then they give you a score for the final exam at that point. You're going to get once you complete the final exam, you're going to get a score, but it's not official until somebody watches the video. That's different than Saylor. Saylor, they give you a score immediately, and you immediately get your credit. and then they're going to watch the video later at Saylor, and then they're going to, if you do something bad, they're going to take the credit back. Study.com, they're not going to give you the credit at all until they watch the video. So if you're trying to rush, maybe you're trying to transfer in classes very quickly, and keep that in mind for Study.com, because they might take up to 7 days to actually watch your video and then give you a score for the class at that point. So just be wary of that. So one thing about Study.com that I think is great is that you only have to get 55% on your final exam in a class that doesn't have any assignments. If you get 100% on your quizzes, which shouldn't be much of a problem, you only have to get 55% on your final exam. It's not insurmountable. If you're in a class like this one that has your quizzes, your assignments, and your final exam, if you get 100% on your quizzes and you get 100% on your assignments, which is very easy, I'll talk about that in a minute. If you do that, you get 100% on the quizzes and your assignments, you could potentially only have to answer 10% of the questions right on your proctored final in order to pass the class. Because you only have to get 70%. You have to get 210 points out of the 300 points required. So you'll get 100 for your quizzes, you'll get 100 for your assignment. You only need 10 for the proctored final. So I like that a lot. I think that's great. So let's talk about the assignments. So the assignments, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of reluctant to even say this about the assignments, but so the assignments are very, at face value, they appear to be very hard, and they are. If you go by what it asks you to do, the assignments are very challenging. There's one, for example, I can't show you the assignments really. So this one, you have 3 assignments here, and it's actually, they're not easy. It's going to take you time to do what it's required, what it asks you to do for the assignments. But here's the thing. I don't even want to say this. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I don't want to get other people in trouble. But one thing I noticed about the assignments is it seems like they're not even actually looking at them at study.com. What I mean is you can try as hard as you want, or you could put as minimal effort in as you want. I mean, I put effort in on everything. But I got 100% on all of my assignments. And I know for a fact I didn't deserve 100% on all of my assignments. There are some I deserved 100%, but there are some that I definitely did not deserve 100%. I deserved maybe 50%. So this one of the assignments, it specifically says in the rubric. So you have the rubric, it's set up, it's like a table, and it'll tell you certain sections are worth this many points. And if you hit all points you hit the maximum amount in a rubric, it gives you the requirements to hit that maximum amount. So one of the requirements was that I had to hit 2,000 words, a minimum of 2,000 words in this essay or this entire project. And anything that was worth 5 points. Anything less than that, automatically 4 points. Somehow I got 5 points, even though my thing wasn't 2,000 words. It was like 1,500 words. I still put a lot of effort in, but I didn't feel like I needed to shoehorn an extra 500 words into this thing. So I just turned it in, less than 2,000 words, and I got 100%. That's fine. I actually did put effort in on that one. And there are many classes I did put effort in on. But one class, I'm not going to say which one, I got 100% on an assignment. This particular class, I'm not going to say which one it is, but it is notorious for having an assignment that feels insurmountable. It seems like it's going to be so hard, you just can't even handle it. And when I looked at it, I thought the same thing, you know? So what I ended up doing for that class is it had 2 assignments, right? It had all your quizzes. It had one assignment that wasn't that bad. It looked actually kind of easy. So I did all the quizzes. I got 100%. I did this other assignment that looked pretty easy. And then I did the final exam first, just because I wanted to see, okay, how many points do I need in order to, how many points do I need on this very, very hard assignment in order to pass this class? So I did everything else first. After I finished the final exam, I actually got enough points on the final exam. I had enough points to pass the class already. So what I ended up trying on the assignment, I just turned in practically a blank page with just a little bit of one part of the assignment I understood, or I actually didn't understand it very well at all, but I tried a little bit. I turned one little section of it in. 5 days go by, I get an email. They told me they can't accept this. It's too easy. You absolutely put in no effort into it. We can't accept this. Okay, great. Okay, fine. Perfectly acceptable. I already have enough points to pass the class, but I was a little disappointed about that because, you know what, who cares? But fine. I'll put a little bit of effort in. So I spent a few hours trying to figure out how to do this assignment. I eventually scrapped something together that looked like I put some effort in. And I did put in effort. I actually studied a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff like that. I've actually heard of people buying Udemy courses to finish this assignment because the material didn't teach you well enough how to do this thing. So I do it. I turn in something that looked like I put effort in, and I did put effort in. But I did not deserve 100% on this thing. Okay? Actually, in one part of the assignment, I actually wrote, I could not figure out how to do this. Give me 0 points for this. I turn it in. 3 hours later, maybe not even 3 hours later, I get a score for it. 100%. 100% on this thing. There's no way I didn't even deserve 50%. Maybe I deserve 50%. I did put effort in on it. But I feel like at study.com, I think what they want you to do is just show effort. I really do believe that. There are some assignments, there's another class I won't talk about, that it was a project I was actually excited to do. It was building a program. It involved building some kind of machine learning thing, which I had never done. So I thought it was kind of cool. So I was like, okay, I'm going to spend a bunch of time on this thing. So I spent a bunch of time on it. I built this thing that had some kind of machine learning. It took data that it already had and then learned to guess something based on this data. I turn it in. I get 100% on it. I thought I deserved 100% because it was actually pretty good. I spent a lot of time on it and it worked. But then you hear about other people who also turn this assignment in with no machine learning component at all to it. And they also got 100%. And now I'm not throwing any shade at them. If you can turn in an assignment, you didn't understand it, you turn it in and you got a high score on it, great. Absolutely great. But at the same time, it would have been nice. Like, I'm going to school to learn how to do things. And I want constructive criticism. I want to know if something's good or if it's not good. I want to know. And the fact that I get the vibe that they're not even actually looking at these sometimes. I don't know if I'm actually turning in anything any good. Like, I don't actually, this assignment I turned in and this machine learning assignment that I did, I want to know if it was good or not. You know, I want somebody to, this was actually the first assignment that I ever turned in, programming related, actually turned in for somebody to grade. So I was excited to see, okay, I'm actually pretty good at programming. I don't even know. Like, I've done all this programming as practice, but nobody's actually ever seen it. I want to know if it's actually any good. They gave me 100%, but did I deserve 100%? I don't know. So in that respect, it disappoints me that I get the vibe they don't actually read it. Now, I haven't got 100% on everything. So I do know that at least some people grade these things. They do dock points here and there. But that's only one assignment out of the maybe a dozen I turned in at study.com. That's the only one I missed any points at all. I only missed points on one, and I missed 2 points out of 100. So I got 98 on one. So maybe I'm just incredibly smart and I just don't know it. I don't think that's what it is. I feel like they're just looking to see if you made an effort at study.com. And hey, look, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have them grading things very forgivingly, like they do, than having them be overly hard on you and giving you lower scores than you deserve. I'd rather have it the easy way versus the hard way, is what I'm trying to say. So it's better, I guess, but it is kind of, I'd rather get the score I deserve, honestly. And if I have to redo the assignment and resubmit it, hey, I'll do it. I have no problem with that. But I want the constructive criticism. I want the feedback. I got feedback at Sophia. Sophia, they actually gave good feedback. Study.com, they told me I did great. And I like to hear I did great, but I like to also actually know if I did great or not. They didn't do that here. So yeah, it is a little disappointing, but I do want to talk about discrete math here. So discrete math, in my degree, discrete math, at least at study.com, might be known as being, it's not hard. It's actually not hard at all. But it is out of the ones here at study.com that I took, I was the most worried about not passing this one. And this is one of the ones where you have to get 55% on the final. So I thought that, maybe I don't get 55% on the final. I don't know. But it actually wasn't that bad. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to say about discrete math. I just went through all the material. Like, that's it. And then I just practice. They do give you a calculator you can use. It is an online calculator. From what I understand, it's the only calculator you're allowed to use technically. But I actually have a friend who didn't know that you were supposed to use this online calculator. Maybe I'm wrong about this actually, but I do believe that you have to use this specific online calculator during your proctored final. I did have a friend who didn't know that you had to do that. And they took an actual calculator, like an actual graphing calculator, into their proctored final, and they passed. They still passed. After the video was reviewed, I guess study.com didn't care very much that they used a calculator, an actual physical calculator, and they still passed them. So, I don't know. Sounds about right with study.com if you're basing it on how these assignments are graded. But, if you want to take a chance and use an actual calculator, you can, I guess. I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe my friend just got lucky, but I don't know. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about discrete math. I just went through it. It wasn't that hard. I'll just be honest. It wasn't that hard. The only section that was hard for me, recursion. I think recursions. I'm not good with recursion. I'm trying to learn recursion. That's probably my hardest section, honestly. But yeah, just go through the material. Use the online calculator. Try to just memorize how to do each types of these problems with the calculator you're allowed to use. It's some kind of scientific Desmos calculator. If you have a membership here, you could actually go into the syllabus here. Let me see. Yeah, it does actually say, well, okay, it does say non-graphing scientific calculator here, but they provide you to the online one. So maybe you are allowed to use a physical calculator. I'm actually not 100% sure by this wording. Will provide access to this. But my friend used a graphing calculator, so, and he still passed it, and they didn't take away his credit. So if you want to do that, you can. Some of the calculators will make it easier for discrete math because they have certain functions built in that'll automatically do these kind of problems for you. I just used this one that they provided, and I just went through the course and memorized how to do it with that specific calculator, and I passed. And it wasn't that big of a deal. I only had to get 55%, but it did concern me because it's not an easy class. It wasn't that bad, but it's not easy. Out of all the classes here that I took, I felt like discrete math was the one I was the most worried about. But it wasn't that bad. The rest of them were pretty easy, in my opinion. If you go through all the material and you really focus on it, I can't really say I had much of a hard time, but I did get 100% on pretty much all my assignments, whether I deserved them or not. So that really helped. I mean, if I got 0% on any of the assignments, then I would have been, 0%, then I would have definitely failed the class. But if I'd gotten 50% on the assignments, then I would have had to get 60% on the final exam. So high score in the assignments is definitely necessary, but it's very easy to do. So yeah, just to recap, I mean, I like study.com a lot. In terms of the actual, what I learned here, I thought I did a very good job teaching you the subjects. There's some exceptions, obviously, that I talked about, but I thought I had an enjoyable time learning here. I just happen to recommend it the least because of the cost and the time it takes you to complete classes. Because of all those quizzes you have to do, it's very time consuming. But it is a necessary part of the program if you want to transfer in as many classes as possible. Actually, let me take you to the pathways. So if you don't know, if this is your first video, let me explain the pathways really quick. These are the pathways. This is for study.com doing computer science at WGU. This is what the class is called at study.com. This is what the class is called at WGU. Any one of these classes here, if you have multiple classes, any one of these here will transfer in for this. If it has an asterisk, that's the recommended one. So I tend to go for the recommended ones unless the other options are much easier. If I look at both of them and I see that one class is much easier than the other one, I'll go for the easier one. But usually I just go for the recommended ones. And as you can see, the reason study.com is necessary to this strategy is because there's so many, right? There are so many. There's 24, 78. You could transfer in 78 credits. I think the max you can do possible is 90. So you could do the majority of them here. Actually, the max you could do out of the 4S's is 85. So you could do most of these here. There's only 2 classes here that you can't do. There's the scripting and programming applications and the web development foundations. Those are the only 2 that are available at the other places that you can't do here. I think those 2 are at Sophia. So definitely do those at Sophia, especially web development foundations. You can get that done in like an hour, tops. But this is why study.com is necessary, because it has so many options here that you can't do anywhere else. I think there's 8 that you can't do anywhere else, so you have to do it here. or you could do them at WGU. But for me, I felt like just transferring in everything that I possibly could. I didn't do the natural science lab, as I told you about earlier, too expensive and too long of a class. So I just saved it for WGU, but everything else I transferred in. I did 10 classes total here at study.com. So, okay. So here is how I recommend handling study.com. It's very easy as well. Just do everything you can do elsewhere, unless you want the education, unless the cost doesn't, the price doesn't matter to you at all. If you got a lot of money and you don't care about, you got a lot of extra time and you don't really care about how much it costs, maybe do everything at study.com. Honestly, because honestly, I like the material, but like I said, I think all the classes that I did here are in this section here, all related to computer science. So I think there were a couple I did that are in this section. I did the technical communication. I wasn't interested in that, but I was interested in the other classes I took. So that might have been why I liked study.com so much, but they're very similar to Sophia. So, I mean, the way the classes are structured are very similar to Sophia. And Sophia is just so much cheaper. So perhaps you want to do it at Sophia. Sophia is the best place to transfer in classes from. So the way I handle this strategy here and how you would implement study.com into this is just, first of all, StraighterLine. Look at StraighterLine first. Get your tuition refund by taking 4 classes. In order to pick those 4 classes that you're going to take, you're going to take classes away from study.com and do those at StraighterLine instead. And that is, if they are only available at StraighterLine or study.com, but not the other ones, take those ones. At this moment in time, technical communication, American politics, and natural science lab are the only ones that are available at StraighterLine and study.com, but not at the other ones. So those are 3 candidates right there that you definitely want to do at StraighterLine instead of study.com. Those are 3. And then you want to find a 4th one. I recommend using Sophia. Take a longer class away from Sophia, like calculus. Do that at StraighterLine instead, because you're going to do a lot at Sophia in a month. So do that. And the way I recommend Saylor, using Saylor in this scenario, is Saylor, you're going to want to use that for a subject you're familiar with. If you've been programming for years, I've been programming for only a little over a year, and I finished 2 of these classes at Saylor. So you might want to consider Saylor if you're familiar with a subject. I would not recommend doing classes here if you're not familiar with the subject, because the material is very, very, very dense, dull, boring material. It's like reading an encyclopedia. You might actually learn the most at Saylor, actually. If you're actually going into it and you're reading everything and you're able to absorb that information, there's so much material at Saylor, and it's all free. But it's just very, for someone like me who has a hard time learning that way, I don't recommend using Saylor to actually learn. I recommend just doing it to get your very quick college credit for a very cheap price. And then everything else. So you took your 3 classes away from StraighterLine already. Find your 4th class at Sophia. Take a longer one, because you only have to do 4 at StraighterLine to get your tuition refund, which will effectively make it cheap, really cheap or free, possibly. And then, yeah, after you've done those 4 at StraighterLine, maybe look at Saylor, and if you're an expert at any of these classes here, maybe do them here, because it's only going to cost you $5. And if you want to know my strategy for how I would handle these, check out my first video in this series. But once you've done that, do every single class here that you have left over that you can do at Sophia. You definitely want to do that. And then everything else that you haven't completed at Sophia and StraighterLine and Saylor, do everything else at study.com. If you can take classes away from study.com that you can only do at Saylor, I'm not sure that there are any that you can only do between Saylor and study.com. But anything you were going to take at study.com and you can do at Saylor, if you're an expert, do it at Saylor if you can. I tried to do this network and security, just wasn't going to happen. And the software engineering, that was really hard for me. And the tests at Saylor, they're the hardest out of the bunch. But you could potentially finish it very, very quickly. So if you're an expert, do classes here at Saylor. But everything you don't do at the other 4S's, do here at study.com, and then just do the maximum amount you can, transfer them all in. So that's how I handle it. Okay, so now the fun part, everybody's favorite part. What rating does study.com deserve for the criteria of being cheap, being easy to complete classes, and fast to complete classes? What rating does it deserve? So let's get to it. To me personally, I think it's extremely important that the classes are cheap, moderately important that the classes are easy, moderately important that they're fast to complete them. That is my criteria. Your criteria might be different, but this is mine. So I'm going to say no to this because I don't want to change it. And we are grading study.com. So here we go. Okay. That's the rating it deserves. 2.25 hoots out of 5. Now, I do feel bad. This score, it's low. But here's the thing. This is all about the criteria of being cheap, being fast to complete, and being easy in comparison to the other of the 4S's. If you're always comparing this to WGU based on price, this would get 5. This would get five hoots. But the reason it only gets 2.5 hoots is based on this criteria. It's just based on this criteria. I liked the education there. And if I'm comparing it to WGU in terms of price, it is significantly cheaper than WGU. If it saves you one term to take classes here at study.com, you've saved thousands of dollars. If you take all the classes possible here at study.com, transfer those all in, and it would have taken you multiple terms to complete WGU if you didn't use study.com and study.com was your only option, you would have saved over 10 grand, maybe tens of thousands of dollars possibly if you're going to use study.com. Okay, so it is absolutely an amazing tool in your tool belt. But it is the worst, in my opinion, out of the 4S's for this criteria. So I feel bad giving it such a low score, but that is based on this criteria. That's all it is. As a place to learn, it's great. And compared to WGU, it's also great. But study.com receives 2.25 hoots out of 5. There you go. Okay. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do appreciate you sitting through to the end if you did. I enjoyed making these videos. I really did. I hopefully help somebody out there who doesn't know how to handle this whole situation with transferring in classes. I do recommend transferring in everything you can because it's going to save you a lot of stress having to complete these classes at WGU in order to get your degree. It'll probably save you a lot of money, transferring in this many classes is probably going to save you a term or two, especially if you are somebody who has a lot of responsibilities. Maybe you have a family, you have a job, kids, whatever, and you don't have a whole lot of time to study. Transferring in these classes is going to save you multiples of thousands of dollars. I can almost guarantee it, unless you could finish everything in one term, which is going to be hard, especially if you have all these responsibilities. So highly recommend just transferring everything you can and just save yourself the headache, the money, the stress of having to complete these classes at WGU. Do what I did. Get it all done at the 4S's. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that. But again, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I helped you out. And if you are interested in following me on any of my social media accounts or whatever, check the description for that. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that nonsense as well. But that's all I have to say here. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.